Grand Prix, and that skyline was certainly good. There's a young man waiting with some fluid dropping out the rear end of his car.
Which is a bit of a worry because this is the Formula One speed competition, and we've got Alan Moffat in the BMW 318. That's the road car, or the family car at least. Larry Perkins in the V8 and Marc Genet in the Formula One car. But it looks like the temperamental Formula Ones are going to cause us a bit of trouble again, Jackie.
Well, Marc Genet is the test driver for the Williams team. They're the guys coming around there to have a look and see what's going on.
Do you think we could get one of the cars out of the garage just for a bit of a run round?
Yeah, I would have thought you and I could have whipped a lot, don't you think?
Well, look, they're trying to restart the car here, get things happening. And moments ago, before the drivers climbed into the cars, Tim Sheridan caught up with the three combatants.
Well, here they are, the three contestants in this most intriguing contest. And Alan Moffat, I've seen you in more powerful cars than the Little Bimmer. Can you possibly squeeze any more out of it than you did yesterday for that great victory?
Only if I cut a couple of more corners, but I think he's awake up to that.
So what do? Are you looking in your rear view, or are you out on the road ahead?
I promised myself I wouldn't worry about it until I got onto the straight, but I'm watching all the way around. It's quite stupid, really.
OK, Larry Perkins, you're in the middle of the food chain, and yesterday you drove like a man being chased like a tiger. And what about today?
I'm going to drive the same. I'm man-possessed today, and I have to beat this young fella here, and obviously my fine feathered friend here.
OK, rumour is you've had a word with the handicapper.
Well, I ran a very good standing lap yesterday, and my lap's staying the same, and the others have had a small shuffle, and we want an even closer finish.
OK, Marc Genet, it's obviously one victory each to the minnows of the equation. Is it time to restore the honour of the Formula One category?
Certainly, you know, everybody in Formula One tells me that, you know, that Formula One honour is down on me. So today I'll make sure Formula One is where it's supposed to be, which is obviously it's the fastest car in the world, but the handicap is so big that it's not easy, you know, and they are driving very well.
Well, good luck in hunting the little guys down. We hope the handicap is done. The handicappers have done their job. It's lucky for you guys it's not wait for age, eh?
Tomorrow's the Melbourne Cup, though. We'll get it right then.
Good luck, guys.
Well, it's 1-1 at the moment, Jackie. Well, there we go. We've got the Williams out and going. Marc Genet there. Who do you think will win this time?
Well, the Formula One cars should win it, but of course the handicap is the big issue. I don't know what the handicap is per se, whether it's on time or whether it's on space around the racetrack. Clearly about the same thing. He's warming the tyres up a little bit at this time. Genet tests a great deal nowadays. Williams have been testing a lot with Michelin because they're using the new Michelin this year. So Genet's done more miles in a Formula One car than most people. But he doesn't, you know, he knows the circuit well, but it'll be difficult for him to race against those two guys because both of them, Alan Moffat knows this place very well, and they're both driven, aren't they?
No, they are. They're playing for sheep stations out there at the moment. Let's go to Darrell Eastlake now as we see Marc Genet warming up to take on Larry Perkins and Alan Moffat.
Thanks, Eddie. Johnny Watson's with me. This is a great concept, and I tell you what, this really captured the imagination of the people here over the last couple of days. When you think in race 2, Alan Moffat yesterday just got there by the barest of margins, but the handicapper obviously did his job very well. Race 1 went to Larry Perkins, and Marc Genet is trying to uphold the honour. But let's have a look at some speeds here. From the bottom corner of the exit, and I question the BMW time of 90 kilometres an hour from the bottom corner to where he gets to the checkered flag, but that was his speed. Perkins came across the line at 203 kilometres an hour, and Marc Genet came across at 284.
Well, I have to say the 284 is probably representative. Larry's speed, I think Larry was maybe sandbagging a little bit, and I'm very dubious about the time for the BMW. It should be a lot quicker than 90 Ks.
Well, I spoke to Alan Moffat in the pits this morning, and he said to me that he's getting about 165 or maybe a little bit better at the end of the straight under the bridge, but he said that's the top speed that he's getting out of the little family Bimmer.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably got about 125 or 30 horsepower, and, you know, it just isn't going to get much quicker. And the straights here in relative circuits are fairly low speed, but for the Formula One car, they accelerate so quickly that, of course, 185 miles an hour, 284 kilometers they do almost on any Grand Prix circuit outside of somewhere like Monaco, and even there, they're almost getting to that speed these days.
Larry Perkins has been a wonderful, wonderful character for Australian motorsport. I mean, you knew him in Europe, and I mean, he did dabble in Formula One. He drove for BRM over there. He had some success. He came back to Australia, got involved with touring cars. And, of course, these days, he's a great supplier of cars. He builds a majority of the touring cars that are raced by Holden these days. He's got an incredible business going. He still races. He still enjoys his racing. And he's given a lot of young drivers a start.
Well, I remember Larry when he came to Europe. It was the Kawangi kid. And I mean, other than there's a few wrinkles on his face and around his eyes, you know, he's still the same effervescent, youthful-looking, outgoing guy that he was when he came to Europe. Of course, a lot more successful here in Australia. He did 11 races between 76 and 77. Actually, Darrell, I think he actually drove as a teammate of mine in one or more races at Brabham in 1977. After Brabham sadly lost Carlos Pache, Larry, I think, was brought in for a couple of races, but then we got Hans Stuck for the rest of the season, and Larry eventually came back over here to Australia and had a wonderful time in touring cars.
Look at this grandstand. I mean, it's absolutely chock-a-block. The amount of people walking around the circuit as we move from the pits back into the commentary box is just astronomical. That blue sky, that's about as Aussie sky as you're going to get. And this has just been a marvellous meeting. I said on Thursday I hadn't seen so many people out here. The same happened Friday. Today, tomorrow's going to be a record day. The weather looks like holding. And I think events like this are great for the public because they give people an idea of the difference of speed, handicapped the correct way between a family car, an out-and-out race touring car, and a Formula One car.
Well, I think people, when they watch motor racing on TV, be it touring cars, Formula One, whatever, they can't relate it to what they drive on the road. They may have a car that looks like a Holden Commodore there, but this race car and the standard production car are miles apart. But actually, way back in the middle or early 80s, one of my sponsors took a Formula One car, a Porsche 928, and a Ford Sierra, and it was James Hunt on the Sierra, Nicky Lauda, the Formula One car, and the Porsche, and we tried to create it's very, very difficult, and to handicap, as Jackie was saying, to work out the relative handicaps between the three vehicles to ensure that they all come across the line at about the same time is extremely difficult.
Well, he's done a good job because there hasn't been much in it. The two events we've seen so far, unfortunately, that's last year's Williams car that Mark Genet is sitting in. That's him there. And they're having some problems with it.
I should tell you a funny story. Yesterday, when Mark Genet went out on track, a couple of the teams in the pit lane went ballistic. They went screaming down to Charlie Whiting, the clerk of the course, to say, why is this car out in the circuit? This is unreasonable. We should be allowed out. They were told, don't worry, guys. It's last year's car, last year's engine. They went away happy. Shows you how bright some of these team managers are. They didn't think about the tyres. Of course, Michelin on the BMW, they got a little momentary insight into what the circuit would be like, not far away from the time of qualifying.
So Alan Moffat's away now in the little BMW 318i. 51-second start he gets. Alan Moffat, this guy was a great racer here. He had a very famous car. It was a red Mustang sponsored by Coca-Cola. He dominated a lot of races. Pete Gagan, another very famous character in Australian races, who also drove the sedan version of the Mustang, and of course Bob Jane. And they had some classic duels, particularly at Bathurst. And one race where this man here, Alan Moffat and Pete Gagan, raced side by side, lap for lap, and basically finished, you know, centimetres apart. It was just wonderful stuff.
Well, just watch the BMW. Here is a standard production saloon car. You can see how soft it is in relative terms, let's say, compared to the Holden, which Larry Perkins is about to start in. Much stiffer, much more rigid chassis. Virtually a proper silhouette race car.
And see the start there. Look at the rubbery burnt and laid and whatever. A little bit, it just took off nice. Now we'll get some information out of the cars. There it is there.
Yeah, you see the rows. 6.5 coming up to 7 at 7,500 backs down again. But the acceleration of this touring car much, much higher, up to 260 kilometres. That's pretty quick.
Now there goes Mark Genet. He takes off now in the Williams. Unbelievable. This is great stuff. Now, the handicapper yesterday, I'm telling you, the day before, only had them. Honestly, they were just centimetres apart at the finish line. So he's done a great job. Whether he can duplicate that today. Now, race 2 was won by Moffat. Race 1 by Perkins. Can Genet now uphold Formula One's pride?
Well, the trouble with the Formula One car, he probably hasn't had the benefit of tire blankets. The tires probably are not up to the ideal racing temperature. He's got to be a little bit careful and not make himself look stupid by planting it in the wall. And of course, he's a proud Spanish guy. He's not going to want to be beaten by a Canadian and an Australian.
Yeah, Alan Moffat, of course. Well, he's an honorary Australian now. He's been here for so long. So there it is. There's a little bimmer now. Here's Larry Perkins, you see. He just lost a bimmer out of picture. Larry Perkins starting to gather him up now at this part of the circuit. Perkins having a big go. He's really keen to win this, and here comes the Formula One car. So he's closed the gap very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Genet is certainly going to gobble up Larry Perkins, but whether he can get Alan Moffat, I don't know. But that's the difference in speed. It's visual here. And of course, it's under braking, it's the speed in the corner and acceleration.
Look at Alan Moffat. I mean, and let me tell you, he said he's driving the thing as hard as he can drive it, but trying to be as smooth as he can. Round he comes now. There's Larry Perkins. He's now closing the gap. Larry gets a little sideways. There's Janae. Wow, this is good stuff.
Well, it's going to be easy for Alan Moffat, but look, Janae.
Well, Janae, get it. There's the line. Janae gets on. He gets it pretty easy today. He really did get that pretty easy. Larry Perkins, I think, got second, and Alan Moffat third, but there was a lot more in that today. Janae really fired up, so did Larry.
Yeah, it looked to me, I have to say, that maybe Alan Moffat had a moment just coming off the corner, just lost the acceleration, the speed off the corner. Larry picked it up, but Mark Janae did a great job, so each have won one of these rounds.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So tomorrow the final's on. Another one tomorrow, and Larry Perkins, he's just enjoyed this so much. And I think the public have too. It's captured everybody's imagination. Yeah, good stuff. So Janae now squared it up for the Grand Prix people. They'll be happy about that. Larry Perkins, well, he's got a bit of exposure for Castrol, which he should do anyway. And he enjoyed. You know, one of the great things about Larry Perkins is that he'll take part in anything like this. Now, here's some replays.
Yeah, now, as you see, there's the difference, and look at the acceleration. Look how quickly he's catching up to the 318 BMW. Goes across the line, 280 clicks under the start-finish on the bridge here. And that's the acceleration of the Formula One car coming into turns 15. The gap, you'd think impossible. That just illustrates how powerful Formula One BMW engine, even last year's BMW engine, look at the way it pulls out and passes. Something like 760 or 80 horsepower against, what, 550 or 600 with the V8s and 140 or so with the 318 BMW.
That is pretty amazing when you saw that. I mean, when you consider how much grunt that Castrol Commodore's got, the way that he went past him was just unbelievable.
Well, if you wanted an example of why weight matters, the Formula One car gives you 600 Ks, including the driver, and a lot more horsepower. And that's literally what Formula One technology is all about. The maximum you can do pretty much within very strict regulations. Get the weight down, get the power up, the ultimate racing machines.
Here we go again now. Watch this. Larry's having a go out of that corner, let me tell you, and watch him go past.
Yeah, Larry had it all sideways, but just once you get in a straight line, the Formula One car's got all the horsepower, all the traction, all the downforce, just easy, easy.
Well, I think that was enjoyable. I enjoyed that. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I think I've been involved in these, Darryl, and I've enjoyed doing them, and seeing them again, I mean, it is a lot of fun.
All right, well, there they go. It's been good. We'll be back with more of that tomorrow. We'll take a break now and be back shortly.